Welcome back, Professor Mohammed Bakari. As you have studied in America, UK, Germany, you've worked in UK, York, and Istanbul for many, many years. What would you advise us? Where do we select or choose the country for our further studies? And why not Kenya?
Thank you very much for having me. First, we have to distinguish between undergraduate studies and postgraduate studies. Our system of education here is modeled on the British system, which actually means that there's a lot of emphasis on undergraduate work. And not only that, but once you pursue a particular line, then you are supposed to stick to that at postgraduate level. In places, for example, like Oxford, again, the emphasis is on undergraduate rather than postgraduate studies, because they believe that if you get solid background at undergraduate level, then you shouldn't have any problems for your postgraduate studies. I want to underscore the fact that our education system here in Kenya is actually very good, although some people try to underestimate its ability to provide a solid educational background. First of all, it doesn't make any sense to spend so much money to go and do undergraduate work abroad if you are in Kenya, unless the area that you want to select is one where it is not available locally. And now, of course, very few areas are unavailable in our country. I think over the years we have worked extremely hard to improve our education system. So to take an undergraduate student, sending them abroad to study is really a waste of money. The same amount of money can be kept to help them to go abroad and do postgraduate work, even for the experience of being exposed to another system altogether. There's a big difference between, for example, the American system and the British system. If, for example, you want to do the professions in Kenya, like medicine, engineering, or law, then you just go straight to those faculties, as long as you have the appropriate grades that are required by those institutions. In America, the situation is slightly different. Of course, they have a lot of resources themselves, and they have, for example, community colleges, and then undergraduate schools, and also postgraduate schools. So it very much depends upon what you want to do. But the primary requirement in America, if you want to do postgraduate work in the professional subjects, then you must go and do an undergraduate degree first. And then, for example, if you are going to study law, then you need the humanities and the social sciences. If you're going to study the other sciences, then you must go and do physics, chemistry, and biology. Because the belief is that, and I think this is right, that if you go with that kind of background, if you go into the sciences or the humanities with degrees, for example, in history, in politics, in sociology, anthropology, then you would have a better grasp of your discipline. Whereas in Britain, you just go straight. You're just going to do your undergraduate degree, and then, as we said earlier, if you have the appropriate grades, and then you go straight to do whatever you want to do. With the Americans, it is very different. First of all, they have the resources, or there are possibilities of individuals going through whatever levels they would like to, and also select whatever subject they need to do. Like, for example, at undergraduate level, you might have done one subject, and then now you want to do a completely different thing. Supposing at undergraduate you did history, and then now you want to do nuclear physics, at master's or at doctorate level, nobody will stop you actually from doing that, because it is assumed you have the necessary preparation for you to benefit from that system. So if we look, for example, at a more concrete example, President Obama studied law, and then did politics. So you can see that he's a much better prepared person, because he acquired all those necessary skills, expressive skills, both written and spoken. And he also shows great maturity in many of those things that he usually discusses, or he is asked to discuss with individuals or in public places. Whereas within the British system, people are just expected to study the subjects that they want to study. So law, you don't need to have a postgraduate qualification in order to pursue law. And most of these graduates in the professions established, in those professions, but it takes them a much longer time, to prove themselves by exposure. Whereas that is not really the case in places like the United States. So different systems have different strengths. But as I said earlier, let us not underestimate our own education system here. We ourselves are products of this system at both undergraduate and postgraduate levels. And we have gone to teach in these advanced countries without any feelings of inferiority. So we have to try and maintain the strengths of our own system. And then, of course, we can make the necessary adjustments if it is necessary to do so. But otherwise, as I said earlier, you really would spend so much money taking your child, to go and do postgraduate, to go and do undergraduate work in other places, and they tend to be very expensive because it's not only about tuition, but it's also about maintenance. Except if you are in Europe, and again, this is an interesting case. If you are admitted to any of the European universities, regardless whether you are a citizen of that country or not, in fact, tuition is free. So you are just left to fend yourself in terms of accommodation and food. And many of these places also provide workspace for those who are pursuing graduate work there. They allow them to work for a couple of hours a week so that they may earn something and then retain themselves. Maybe we can also introduce the same kind of system here, although our labor market is rather strained. We might not have many opportunities, to give to our own students to work and earn something because of the relatively high level of unemployment in our society. And of course, this unemployment has been a result of sometimes forces that are beyond our control, like the COVID disaster has affected almost the whole world, and more so in our own case. Like if we look at what happened in America, America lost many of their very talented people who were centered around New York because they died of COVID, because the epidemiology at that time was not very well understood. And again, this is also what happened in Europe.